Good morning. This is Brandon from Galaxy Stock Market. Today is July 27th, 2025, about 10:09 a.m. as I make this video. And we have a lot to talk about, so hopefully I can get through this in under 15 minutes. I don't think that'll happen, but let's see what happens. As you can tell by this picture, time is almost up, folks. And we've been gifted with the last bit of silver slam, as well as a little pullback in XRP from its all-time highs, but well above where it's been over the last 2 weeks. As you can tell right here, we have a little bit of a mock eclipse that I made, and that basically is trying to signify that XRP's use as global reserve currency asset, as well as cross-border payment solution. And you have, if you've been paying attention, XRP is looking to take over the SWIFT and FedNow payments, and that is a fact. And that Trump, as well as Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, which is the inventor of XRP, has already discussed as much. And I've been saying that for at least a couple of years now. XRP will most likely be backed by silver. And silver is the most suppressed asset in the world. And so those are the topics that we're going to talk about more in a format, which we're going to be looking at a bunch of charts really quickly. And then, of course, tie it into the not-so-Federal Reserve Bank FOMC meeting, which is on July 30th at 2 o'clock, where they'll release their rates. And I'll kind of give my commentary on what that is. And then, of course, the speech by the very maligned Fed Powell. It's going to be interesting. So here we go. So we want to look at our disclaimer. Pause it, read it. If you agree, please move forward. And, of course, follow us on x.com/GalaxyStockMarket. All kinds of commentaries that you will not get on this video, especially if you're following me on YouTube. But subscribe there also. And but anyways, join us there. All right, so 2 weeks ago, Wells Fargo reported earnings, and then they said something very, very striking, that they were using about $200 billion to stay afloat this quarter, meaning funding operations, which means they're functionally insolvent. But then you're saying, but wait a minute, Brandon, Wells Fargo didn't really go down that much, because the central banks can't have these institutions fail outright. They are printing money. They are supporting these banks because they cannot have these banks go insolvent. However, with the 10-year yield being above 36.5, functionally makes all of their assets that they're holding on their balance sheet functionally insolvent. And that's what the problem is. This is why they're borrowing $200 billion to keep their doors open. And it's not just related to Wells Fargo. It's Citibank. It's Bank of America. And all of them are involved in rigging of the silver market, as I've been saying. Okay. And so with the advent of more transparency in terms of the way the Fed is printing money and causing all of those issues, it's very difficult for these banks no longer to kind of hide what they're doing in the background. Just pay attention to this. Don't pay too much attention in the short term about the bank pricing. However, chickens are coming home to roost. Just wanted to talk about this since it is important. It ties into everything that we're talking about going forward. Okay, so we talked about this, and then so what we want to do is Jack the Rippler, and this is Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of XRP, and he flat out came out and said, this is from July 25th right here, we're not partnering with SWIFT, we're replacing them. I mean, that is a bold statement, but that's something that I've been speculating and telling everybody, that the XRP is the mark of the beast coin as well, to usher in this CBDC, but we can take advantage of this right now. Okay. And for those of you that are sleeping on XRP, it really is important that you pay attention to exactly what's going on. XRP is the functional version of Bitcoin, as it was forked off of the Bitcoin. We're not going to go into full discussions about that. Are you listening though? Is anyone listening anymore? Okay. So This was 2 weeks ago, about 10 hours ago, about 2 weeks ago, but that was 10 hours ago when they talked about this. This continues. There's zero shares available to short SLV today. So how did the silver slam crew pull off a minor pullback from 39.35 level as we were being poised to break out from the 40? But you can't expect them not to defend that area. The problem is that they couldn't fully get it down for the amount of paper shorts that was going on. It really is. The effects are smaller and smaller. Like I gave you a drug addict analogy. They take more and more hits at a higher and higher dose until their heart stops. Well, we're almost there. Okay. So what we got is we have the silver coming back below right now the way Friday closed. We're right at this uptrend line. It's a back test, folks. Maybe we go a little bit lower on Monday, unless there's some events that happens. We're moving higher, folks. And this is time for those of you that don't have enough silver for you to accumulate this. Okay. Well, the silver slam crew, of course, as I'm talking about it, was busy on Friday. Over 280 million paper shorts, ounces of paper shorts to bring this to the trend line. And that's it. Maybe they have some more tricks up their sleeves, but any pullback is a buying opportunity, folks. And that's the way everything stands. So July 30th is FOMC meeting. If anyone of you thinks that Fed is not apolitical, we got something to tell you. They are definitely political. My guess is that I agree with this Fed rate cut odds. They're going to leave it steady. They'll probably give some jawboning language that they will cut, but right now they don't see any reason to. And really, you saw how much Trump and Fed Powell loves each other. And so basically, that's not going to happen. Like I said, Federal Reserve Bank does not work for the betterment of the people or for the United States. They work for more of a global cartel at this point. Whether he cuts rates or raises rates or keeps it steady doesn't matter. Fed is neutered. And at this point, as you can see with the advent of the news that XRP will replace SWIFT and all this other stuff, which Fed covers, they are no longer relevant in my opinion. And then we'll see how that thing develops. And so let's move forward. Okay, so we know that I want to look at the 10-year yield, partly because this is the way Friday ended. So we've been trapped in this range between 44.5 to about that 43 level. And, that's all they can do. It won't go up or it won't go down. Realistically, if it gets above 45 on the 10-year yield, it's a big problem for the banks. And so they're fighting like tooth and nail, but it's, again, you can only print money so much before that effectiveness. And just the sheer supply of the M2 money supply, the way it reflects on the overall economy and the movement of money, that's what it measures. It just becomes kind of a losing game. This is why it's imperative that a new money system is coming, and I do believe it's coming. I mean, you just look at what XRP is doing, as well as how the gold and silver has been moving, and of course the silver slam crew coming up and just slamming the crap out of it on Friday to only get minimal results. We live in interesting times at this point. So basically, this 10-year yield is important. It's not budging. It hasn't gone anywhere. And so from what we need to look at is the dollar, right? The US dollar continues to hold below not only just 100, but we're holding below 98. And despite whatever measures and intervention that may be happening, if you have so much printed money, it's going to go into risk assets, which is the stock market. However, we're going to show you that may be coming to an end. So US dollar continues to be below 98, and you have to pay attention to these things. Okay, so and then we got the silver. We'll talk about this after we talk about where we are in the stock market. So let me bring up my stock charts right over here. And it's important we talk about this. First and foremost, this is my not famous, but everyone has this. This is a long-term monthly uptrend chart of SPY going back all the way to 2005, right? And we know that from the Trump pump, as it came in, that long tail candle. And so we basically pushed up, making new highs. But again, trend lines do not lie. As it hits, okay, we're now very, very close for this thing to start coming back down. We did come down to here. We back tested. And this, by the way, happens very, very frequently. We had some of this action in the past, in the 2007 to 8. We bounced again and all hell broke loose, right? We just went straight down. It went straight down in 2022. And well, we really didn't hit it. This is the pandemic that we talked about. And then we hit this lower trend line, and then we get some form of recovery. That means that this is coming down all the way to about the 380 mark on the SPY. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but it's something that you need to take a look. And we are now at that level, and divergences are forming, folks. So let's look at SPY on the weekly really quickly. We went below the trend line on the RSI. Yes, it is bullish. Okay, it has been. How could it not be? Okay. However, now we're running into this red trend line right here. It's basically running smack dab into that level. Can we poke above a little bit? Maybe we can. But it's really time to start looking at why and if the momentum is waning. Look at the volume is coming down. It's significant, folks. And so we have flattening out of the MACD. Okay, it's still bullish. Okay, but commodity channel index is now flashing negative divergence. We have the stochastics now rounding out. It's beginning to cross over. Okay, stochastic is the first warning sign. And then my PPO ADX really has a little time to go. I mean, this really did nail that rally, right? This crush indicator that I have. And now we're beginning to form this thing. So if we start to form this type of a formation as we go, meaning this, we are going to start having a significant sell-off, and we are entering into August. And August, September, and October tends to be where stock market starts to get a little more volatile. So that's kind of where we are on the weekly. On the daily, we got this interesting kind of the rising wedge situation, and then the green line is the megaphone formation, and then we have kind of the stalling out. Can we get up into that megaphone area? Sure we can, but we are stalling out on the RSI on the daily. The volume has really not been participating realistically. When you look at the stochastics, MACD, it has really flattened out. Stochastic is now signaling a interesting divergences are now forming. This long-term uptrend line on the stochastic realistically is coming up. Yeah, it's still kind of bullish, right? But we are forming that negative divergence forming right here. And what I mean by that is, if you don't see it, then I'm going to draw for you. There is a negative divergence forming as we get into this area. It doesn't mean it can't go a little higher, but it is running out of steam. Look at the PPO ADX is flat to kind of beginning to form that negative crush indicator. Accumulation, I mean, it's been torrid. How could you not when you have all that money chasing everything, right? So basically, the ATR is at the bottom channel, which means the trend change is almost near. Let's look at silver really quickly. Yes, the slam crew came out on the daily, okay? And, I'm kind of hoping that we get into 40. But I also said, hey, look, they're going to defend that 40. That is a psychological level. They cannot have it. Can we pull back all the way down into 37.58 on Monday? Unless something happens, okay? Silver squeeze is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. For them to slam 200 million ounces on Friday and to get only this type of result, in the past, they would do stuff like that. We would come all the way down at least into this 50-day moving average, maybe 100 or the 200. I mean, you've seen those slams right here in the past. Look at these slams. These slams can still happen. Okay, I would not put it past the slam crew to do that. However, we'll see what happens at this point. MACD is signaling there may be a little more pullback coming in. Okay, they're going to defend this area like hell. So that's kind of where we have it. Silver on the weekly is showing a different type of story, right? I mean, that pullback on the daily looks really significant. All we did was hit 52-week high, and then we pulled back. We're probably going to pull back to this phase 2 line. And so we're looking for this parabolic phase 3, like these phase 3s right here. All right. It never really gets to phase 4 because of the slam crew, because really that would mean the end of the banks, right? that are shorting this. But that's what we have on that really quick. On the earnings front, I am very bearish on BKNG BKNG. I mean, you have divergences on the RSI. We basically have these little doji formation, which means that it's stalling out at the tops. And really, after the earnings, I'm looking for about 8 to 12, 15% pullback, which means we can get into these box regions. BKNG is bloated. I don't know if there's anybody that's really traveling anymore. And with the advent of all these other things happening with Airbnb and, real estate is not doing so hot, folks. We have the MACD right here curling over. Just a little freebie for you guys on the CCI coming down. It's all divergent and bearish. BKNG, if you're playing with options, is very difficult because of the wide spread. And so it's important that you know what you're doing there. Otherwise, even if you're right on the price movement, if you pay too much, it's over. Okay, especially because earnings is on Tuesday. The other one that I'm looking at is that Microsoft has been on a torrid tear. Here's a gap right here. Okay, this is a gap, folks. All right. And since then, it's just gone nothing but straight up high. But we're beginning to see some divergence. Volume really did not participate. In fact, the major volumes were on the sell side as this thing was moving higher. Those are insider selling, folks. And so we got that. And then the CCI coming in, it's stalling out and it's flashing negative divergence, despite the fact that from the negative side, that stochastics has been negative. Okay, it's basically trying to create that, but I think it goes up a little bit and comes right back down ahead of the earnings, which is on Wednesday on this one. Keep an eye on these two things. Not financial advice. You do what you want. You do your own research. But here's the weekly, and the weekly one really is. I mean, it's gone basically parabolic at this point, right? Is there any signs of stalling on the weekly? No, but we're now right below this parabolic trend line. If the earnings suck, I think this thing could come all the way down into this previous trend line down to here. That's where that intersects. That's where you want to be looking for. I think there is a big price movement potential coming in. You don't want to go and front run this one, however, unless you think something's going to happen. I'm not going to tell you what we're doing as a group, but that's what you want to look into. Okay, so this is my analysis really quick for you all. And so let's go look at the silver currently. Okay, to wonder what that $200 billion in borrowed money went. This is the question I posed 2 weeks ago. Of course, Slam Crew. And they're borrowing that $200 billion. These are the banks, like especially Wells Fargo. What they're doing is borrowing that $200 billion because they spent the money slamming the crap out of this, because they know that if silver gets above 40, it's going to be a quick jump and take out the 49.95, and that still is in the cards. Silver slam cruise, despite significant over 280 million paper shorts. Slam crew could not take it below 37.863. They still may on Monday, but that's just a buying point for those of you that are still sitting on the fence. Here's your gift right here. Buy more, right? And then, of course, I want to talk about XRP, okay? And this is an old drawing from when it was at 234. And yet I still have people saying, oh, no, it's going to go back to 234. Right now, it was at about 360. Now it's pulled back to about 320, 315. I think it went as low as 296. Those are the pullbacks you want to take advantage of and nibble at these. Don't be these guys like the retail tards that line up when it hits the 1,000, 10,000. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but it's definitely coming. They're replacing the SWIFT. It's going to be cross-border payment system, right? It's just so many other things that people realize, okay? So it pulled back from the highs of 365. Will you still not buy? That's the question, because right now, we did pull back down to here. We're making a little bit of bear flag. I'm hoping that it pulls back a little more so we can go buy it. It definitely broke through this initial support line. Needed to hold. If everyone's talking about $12, $5, $7, what, $25, some people are saying $500. Those are all bunk. Okay, they're not going to let XRP go up higher because I don't think all the banks have accumulated this yet. However, these are the pullbacks, and you need to give it like 2 to 5, maybe 10-year horizon on XRP. But you need to accumulate these. Okay, pretty soon you will not be able to accumulate them. Here's the black swan. Okay, they're swimming everywhere. Silver slam crew. Okay, will you take advantage of it to get more silver? Okay, 10-year yield right now is at 43.86. Rescue's really not working, is it? It's stubborn because the sins of printing money is coming home to roost. XRP pulled back. Will you buy? Black swans everywhere. Just on a side note, Trump visited the Fed and their reconstruction. It was comedy on both sides. Okay, so that's what we've devolved into, folks. Anyways, if you want to watch, silver is going to 50 plus imminently. It is. It really is. We just got to get over Monday's options expiration, but who knows? You know, maybe we have some weird events. I always tell people, remember a few years back when oil hit minus 38? Hell does freeze over, and those kind of events come out of nowhere, and that happened during the options expiration for them too. So I'm not saying it will. Just remember, silver is the most suppressed asset in the world, and they cannot get the silver below 37.86. Okay, banks are betting Fed lowers rate on 7:30. This is why they're pumping. Now, apart from the fact that we're printing money to oblivion, and Trump is complicit on this. Okay, will they though? Are they going to raise rates, or are they going to continue to play political games because they are not interested in the well-being of America? Watch the Microsoft and BKNG earnings. Okay, XRP pulled back. It's cheap until $10. Will you buy on this pullback? Remember, banks are insolvent. Don't worry about the pricing that's going on. Banks are insolvent as long as they hold into their assets U.S. Treasury bonds. Okay, that's just all there is. Okay, so that's it. Follow me at Galaxy.market on X.com. Like us, share us. If you're still following me on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment, tell me what you think. And then, of course, there's some of you that want to work with me. Okay, we have some serious traders that I work with. You got to email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com and schedule a consultation with me. Okay, it's not for everyone. Okay, we run and gun, and but those of you that are kind of more on the retail side, we do have a community that's affordable, and you can get in and get my insights on macroeconomic analysis, things like the 10-year yield and how that relates to the rest of the world and what we expect. So if you want a little insight into that, that's a perfect place to come in. But anyways, that's my shameless plug. Be careful out there. Things are going to get really, really interesting. So anyways, let's get some alpha. Bye-bye.